this is Jimmy's 74 Ford, and it doesn't really get any better than this. I think we built this truck about 15 years ago for Jimmy. His dad bought it brand new the year Jimmy was born, 1974. It's a F-250 Highboy, and we did a ton of stuff to this truck, and it's just awesome to get in it and drive it. It's got that old school sound and smell. You know, it's the truck that everybody's grandpa drove them around in, you know, whether it be a Ford or a Chevy, you know, in this vintage, just awesome truck to drive, ride around in. And we've done all kinds of upgrades to it to make it even better, but still keep that old, you know, Ford patina. I mean, look at those big mirrors, you know. It doesn't really get any better than that. They don't make mirrors like that anymore. So let's drive it up here on the hill, and I'll walk you guys around it and show you what you did, or what we did a long time ago. So definitely in the top 10 of my favorite WFO builds is Jimmy's 74 Ford F-250 Highboy. Story of this truck is Jimmy's dad bought it in 1974, the year Jimmy was born. The family had this truck forever, and then as our customer Jimmy got older, the truck kind of went into his hands, but his dad still gets to drive it all the time, stuff like that. So he brought us the truck, I think in about 2005, a long time ago, you know, 15, 17 years ago, and said, hey, we need to do an update to this truck. It's an old truck. It has crappy steering, crappy brakes, a ton of vibration. So it was a Highboy, had a divorce transfer case, manual steering with Ford's version of power steering, which was a pressure switch and a hydraulic ram that never worked. You know, there was a whole turn of play in the steering wheel, drum brakes, had disc in the front, drum in the rear. It just sucked to drive. And Jimmy finally had a chance to do an upgrade to it while his dad was still around, and his dad is still around today. And we went to town on it. So any of you guys who have Highboys, you're gonna wanna kind of follow along closely, because I think what we did is one of the best ways to update your early Ford and kind of make it into a later model. So we knew we had to deal with brakes, steering, you know, that kind of stuff. So what we did is we just searched the old interwebs and found a 78, 79 Ford F-350 rolling chassis. So that had everything we needed for this truck. So in 78 and 79, they went to standard power steering. They went to no more divorce transfer case, a married 205, moved the gas tank to the outside, power brakes, basically updated everything, even the running gear. So we used that whole rolling chassis and put everything into the 74 frame. And we'll start talking about how we did that. So the first thing we did is underneath the front. So that 78, 79 happened to have the coveted 78, 79 high pinion Dana 60. So in these Ford F-250s and 350s and 78, 79, some of them had the Dana 44, but some of the 250s even had the Dana 60 as well. So we put the front axle in here, and then we went ahead and used Skyjacker 4-inch springs in the front. And then one of the other things we did is we started taking everything off of that donor truck. Is right here in the wheel well, you can see this plate welded in. This is actually the 78, 79 F-250 steering box, and we mounted it to the 74 frame. And then the pitman arm is tucked down underneath here, and we went ahead and did crossover steering while we were mounting it. That's actually a Jeep TJYJ pitman arm in there. And then if you come back around to the front, you can see the drag link coming across. We had to put a slight bend in it right here to clear the cross member. Goes over to one of our original WFO crossover steering arms. And then while you're underneath here, you can see, look, there's a hydraulic ram. So this thing actually has PSC hydraulic assist steering from years and years ago. So not only is it standard power steering with the F-250 box, but we did hydro assist. For the engine in here, went ahead and Jimmy had a 428 rebuilt. So it's got a 428 engine. Now, with the donor truck, we were able to use the married C6 from the donor truck, even though this had a C6 already, and the adapter, and use the donor truck 205. So as you look underneath here, we really didn't buy a lot of parts. So there's the 205 out of the 78, 79, married. And then if you look at the front drive shaft, that is actually the drive shaft that just came in the 78, 79. We didn't even have to shorten it or lengthen it. The cross member bolted in out of the 78, 79. And this rear drive shaft here is also the drive shaft that came in the 78, 79. So another thing we did is we used the rear end out of the 78, 79 because it's a newer Dana 60. It was 30 spline. And we went ahead and bored the spindles and put 35 spline axle shafts. And then this truck has ARB lockers front and rear with 456 gears. As we move our way to the back, you can see some of the cool things is super heavy duty rock sliders all the way from front to back. You can see where the old gas tank was in the 74. Jimmy's welded up the hole, hasn't done the paint yet because we did something back here that is really cool. So if you look underneath there, you can see we built a custom rear tank that goes between the frame rails. It's 40 gallons. And not only does it go all the way up to the axle, but it also dog legs above the axle and goes forward another 1.5 feet as well to fit the whole 40 gallons. So this tank is filled with the fill hole up there in the side of the bed, kind of in the regular spot. You can get another look here at the rear Dana 60 with disc brakes that we put on it, Dynatrac diff cover. And these brake calipers don't have e-brakes, so we did a line lock. Right up underneath here, you can also see a winch mounted. So this truck was going to be used at their property up in Pioneer. So we did a heavy duty rear bumper with a winch mount. So if you take a look at this bumper, it wraps all the way up to the front of the wheel well, all the way around, swinging tire rack. It's got a chain here for a safety in case the latch comes unlatched, with a high lift jack. Spare mounted here, has the receiver for the trailer hitch sunk right into it. You got to reach in and get to the pin, toe points, and the winch completely hidden there behind the license plate, and that's where you can use your rear winch. That's a Warren M8000. 2 little LED lights light up your license plate. So the theme here was just big, beefy, strong, heavy duty, and updated. So disc brakes front and rear, we decided to go with hydroboost on it. So it has a GM hydroboost up underneath on the 428. See if we can open this hood. These Fords are kind of tricky, us Chevy guys, you know. So there it is, 428 Ford. You can see hydroboost brakes up there. This is the disc master cylinder that we use. Dual batteries, has the winch solenoid up underneath the hood there. And then this is how old this is. That's one of the OG old school ARB air compressors in there. One of the upgrades we just did while it was here, we added this Perco switch so that if he's not using the truck for a while, click to off or click to both, so you can keep your batteries charged. And then this had the old Motorcraft alternator with an external regulator, and we went ahead and did a 1-wire Power Master alternator, so it's charging all the time, keep power going to the truck good. But one of my favorite parts of this truck is this front bumper right here too. So Jimmy wanted something that was old school, that was strong, that kind of fit the bill of this truck and matched. And so back in the day, WFO, we went ahead and designed this, cut it all out, welded it up, powder coated. You can see it's been on there so long, some of the powder coating's even starting to fade. So it has a Warren 9.5 winch in the front bumper, another one of those cool license plate brackets so you can get into your winch, toe points, badass front bumper. This truck steers absolutely perfect, one finger. The brakes are just tap them, killer. Drives down the road, tons of power with the 428. You know, to top it off, what do you have? Super Swamper TSLs. It just seems like a truck like this needs a super swamper on it, right? And if I'm not mistaken, these are 16.5 rims. I mean, that just goes to show you how long it's been since we built this truck that we put it on 16.5s. But you know, that was the cool thing back then, and I think it still looks cool right now. One last thing, you take a look inside. Nothing fancy in here, except for some odometer gauges. We made a custom dash insert, mounted the gauges up there. All Carling rocker switches for headlights, windshield wipers, heater, that kind of stuff. Got rid of all the Ford controls on that, but the coolest thing in here is definitely the bucket seats. So a little bit later on, Jimmy had these put in here. I think we put them in, he bought it. So super low back buckets, leather, also very thin, so that if you're a bigger guy, you're fitting in this single cab, you can fit in here. I mean, the seats look a little too new school, but man, they're nice to sit in. Lastly, right there in the middle, you can see the switches for the ARB compressor and the front and rear lockers. So, I mean, this truck really does have it all. Onboard air lockers, hydro assist steering, hydroboost brakes. I mean, really the only thing it needs is a paint job, but I think that kind of the patina and the primer and the fixing of everything goes along with the truck, and it's really almost a no rust truck, you know, for buying it brand new. Just awesome to see a truck that, you know, started in one family, is still in the same family. His mom and dad still get to drive it. They still get to enjoy the good steering, the good brakes, comfortable down the road, being that it was their truck that they bought, what, a long time ago, right? We're talking over 50 years, so around 50 years. So pretty cool, and I'm glad Jimmy brought it back. I'm glad we could show you guys. I hope you enjoyed it.